What is happening, everybody? This is the experimental show. Once again, you got Michelle and me in the intro, but today it is myself. We got Joey just walked by the screen, and you got Oliver in here as well. This was end of the day. This was a Wednesday, I believe it was. We had a full production, beautiful day. Right here, look at I'm talking about how it's working. If you guys caught all that, that is me picking up the bar color. Right here, I'm talking about how I'm going to stick it back on the pipe so it doesn't pull off. Because what we're doing here today for this show is, this is something that none of us are too proficient in yet. It's why it's kind of the experimental show. We're learning a little bit. We're doing it together. Oliver's never done one of these, so this is pretty important. But this is cane pulling. You guys have seen it from time to time. We use it in various different ways. But this is a pretty important thing to know as a glass blower for certain pieces. For a lot of things we do, candy cane, we use a lot of these. We call them twisties. We make keychains out of them. There's a brilliant bright green that Joey's working with. A bunch of different factors that this comes into play with. So what I'm doing right now, we're working on only solid pipes, and I'm setting up the core of it, which is going to be a white core. There's so many different patterns you can do. It's something I haven't dove into just yet, but it's an Italian technique, as many of our techniques are, and you can design pretty much anything. And when you're designing it on the solid piece like we're doing right now, you're thinking about what it's going to look like when you pull it 15, 20 feet, turning the entire way, twisting the color up. So the design we went for here, and you'll see it didn't go on as smooth as we would have liked, but this is, and I did a nice fold back here to use all the color right there. That is a bright, actually that's the darker of the two greens, so that is probably what to compare it to. It's a dark opaque green. Joey's bringing over the brighter opaque green. This is kind of, we call it granny apple green. And we're going to do two bands, and this is something that didn't really go on as smooth as I would like at all either. But there's one band down the middle, and then we do one more right next to it. So it's got two lines, those two bands of granny in the middle, and then one band of a darker green on the outside, white in the core. The one thing that I learned on this for sure and going forward is there's no need to rush. We kind of felt like we were moving fast because of the camera, but there's definitely, I could have used more white. The proportions were off, more white, less green on the outside. You'll see the way it turns out after the twist. It still looks amazing. It's super cool. But the proportions were a little strange. Two things to notice there. I was lining up the color to get it as smooth as I can, but you also notice the tweezers burning off a little something. There was a little smoke. That means there was wax or some other material on them. So usually in this scenario, it's a good thing at the beginning of a piece when you burn that stuff off like we did there. There you can see as I'm lining it up, it's got a beautiful shape to it, but the color, the way the color and the proportions are lined up on there, there's nothing clean about it. One side's thicker, one side's thinner. It's not a perfect scenario color-wise, but all the colors on there, when you're going to twist it out and make it long, it's going to look beautiful either way. So this is the beauty of figuring out cane. If you were to take a flat piece like that and go in and encase it in clear right in the furnace, chances are you'd catch some bubbles on either side. That's like turning we always say using a chopstick to pick up honey is very similar to what glass is like. That's like if you took like a rowing paddle and tried to go into a bowl of honey and pick up a perfectly even, smooth gather. That doesn't really work. So Joey was bringing over a couple nice, real hot, larger gathers that we just souped onto the side there on either flat side, and I'm slowly shaping them up to make that a little bit more of a spherical piece. This is going to be the core, and then we'll do one more large gather over this. As we get better at this, and you guys will see the progression over the next year or so, especially into Christmas season, holiday season, you'll see us doing larger and larger ones. This is a fairly small cane pull. Sometimes we've got 3 ladders or 2 ladders on the ground behind me there. If you do a third or fourth, sometimes we'll have 6 ladders out, and you pull out the drill. We're going to hand twist this one, but you pull out the drill and you can literally pull it the entire length of the shop. So what we're doing now is just lining it up. melting it in. We don't want any cracks or any crevices in there so that we capture bubbles. That's what's gonna make the cane not chop correctly. You'll see little thin strands of bubbles going through there. A couple thumbs up there. But I really took the time to smooth this out. Another thing I was noticing is we had a smaller pipe here. I went with the smaller pipe, which is still our large counterweight. This is what we use for punties, we use for other pieces that are on the larger side. But we have a whole step up of honey that's twice as big as this, and that's what we'll use for cane going forward. I thought this would be fine for the smaller cane, and honestly it probably is and would be if we had a little more intent behind what we were doing. And I mean, I'm talking it down just so you guys get our mentality going into it, but really it turned out really good, and we're going to only improve from here. Cooling it down a little before the gather. You go in too hot, and this is where you don't want to cool it down too much, because then you're totally going to lose or take too much time to reheat that piece after the fact. So I just wanted it cold enough that it wasn't going to bend, I wasn't going to lose any color while I was in the furnace, but I didn't want to cool it down too much that I'd have to take an extra 3 or 4 or 5 heats to get that heat back into the core. And the glass was low. We don't have a lot of glass in there, and I was digging pretty deep for it, but there you see we got a nice beautiful case on top of it. And you saw us cooling down the pipe a second ago. The more you twist this, the more leverage you have on the pipe, the better it's going to be. So you'll see Joey too. Maybe it's behind the scenes in the future here, but he'll cool down the next pipe. We're going to connect another pipe to this solid piece of glass and pull in opposite directions, twisting as much as we can. It's a serious forearm workout. That's why from time to time we'll use the drill instead. Saves a little bit of your forearms, but super important to get this thing lined up correct and then be twisting as much as you can. The more you twist, the better the cane's going to look. I gave it a pat there on the top. I'll do it a couple more times here because I want to make sure that the color gets all the way down there. If that color is what touches the next pipe we connect it to, same as with the white, I pulled it back and tagged it to the pipe. If you have a layer of clear in between the pipe on either side, that clear is going to be a lot softer in most cases than the color you're using. So sometimes you'll go to pull it and it'll just pull right off of the pipe, and you got one big glob on one pipe and you're still connected to the other pipe, but there's no way to pull it out and twist it up even. So that setup and that connection on either pipe are super important to make sure the pull that the pull comes out correct. It was a little off center there, so I was working on it. You could see it when I squished it down a little bit, trying to get it lined up real nice. Joey's done a lot of these pulls before. When we were doing our candy canes for the Henry Ford, they were making thousands and thousands of canes a year. So Joey knows how this works when it comes to setting up the pull going on the opposite end. He's got a little bit of glass. There he is cooling down the pipe so I can hold it real close up there and turn as much as I can. But that piece he has needs to be the perfect temperature before we stick it. So he's letting it chill. He even dripped a little bit of that water onto the piece so it crackled a little bit and cooled down even more. Little extra heat so it's tacky. But you're going to see me here in a second. I touch it one time to the water and just get a little crackle and cool down on the very tip of it so that it doesn't do exactly what I was talking about a second ago and pull all the way off of the pipe Joey has. There we got a nice stick. I'll give it a little extra heat. And this is all about the timing, you guys. Here it goes. We're all holding our breath, making it happen. I'm going to do a little tap on the floor. Lift it up. Connect it. Beautiful connection. It's stuck on there perfectly even. Then I'm starting to twist it here, and I'm getting it to the length I want. Hand it off to Joey. And this is where the forearm work comes in, and this is where it got a little bit hot. So Oliver was there ready to go. He got the Sofietta, and he's blowing. That's right where that connection is. Wants to pull off the pipe, but look at how it's moving. It's totally floppy right now. Still super hot. I'm turning as fast as I can. And the steps you take, the speed in which you walk back, look at that. It's like a candy rope right there, is super important. Joey's able to set it on the rollers. He's turning as fast as he can. And you got to do this all in one move. There's no reheating this middle piece here. We want to pull it out. We got a beautiful, actual, really nice even pull going on. And look at the twist. Joey's working his forearms right there real good. We really use most of the color there. There's not a lot left on the pipe, which is really awesome. As soon as you feel it start to lock up, you can see the green coming out and where it's getting cold in the middle there. Little thin on my end, but I used all of the color down there too as well. So it was honestly a really nice pull. Now it's pretty much stiff. We're getting a little length out of it by pulling it. I was actually really happy with the pull and the diameter of the pull. Super happy with it. The only thing I was shrugging about was the color pattern. It's not how we drew it up. It's a beautiful color pattern, and wait till you see it all the way cool down. It's bright and powerful and super cool. Not how we drew it up, but sometimes that's how things happen in glass, and they turn out to be beautiful situations. One touch of the tweezers, that popped right off. And here's another good look at it before it cools down. You see the darker green coming out. You see the lighter green kind of mixed. It doesn't look like two lines. It's pushed together, and it's one solid chunk down the middle now. So that's kind of what we were like, but it still turned out great. This is really nice. Right where I'm pointing right there, it actually looks perfect thickness, perfect twist, really beautiful. And it's so thin that you don't have to anneal that just yet. We're gonna wait until that cools all the way down. Joey had the great idea with this leftover thick stuff. He got a really good heat on it, and we actually pulled it out and probably made like 2 or 3 canes worth extra of length. Look at this, pulls it out real fast. I grabbed it with the shears, and then he was just twisting, and we pulled it out and got some super bonus cane, which is super cool. That's what we call free 99 right there. And imagine, I mean, we just did that. It was fairly fast. It's a lot of glass, though. Imagine doing like 10 of those pulls in a day. You empty out the entire furnace with the amount of glass you use. Your forearms are just exhausted. We did a lot of this in Pittsburgh as well, and then of course you got the 3 or 4 or 5 step process from chopping the cane after this to polishing it to bending it to polishing it again to annealing it again. There's a whole process that goes into making one cane. Luckily we can do it in a mass production like this by making multiple in one pull. Otherwise it'd be a serious project. But we got a couple extra ones here off this, which is just super sweet. And really look at that green behind the scenes there, how that's changed color. It's probably almost cool to the touch. When we're finishing up the video here, I'm going to grab a couple of them and use the nippers and chop them down. And they will be still warm, but I'm still able to grab them and show them off to you guys. And Oliver didn't play too much of a role other than the color in this one, but I thought it was really good for him to see how that works because he'll be a huge part of that going forward. And turned out really good. This is another special bonus here, and Joey, he always thinks on the fly. He's like this. It's super great. He said, you know, what the heck? Why don't we make this into a snail? And I sat right in the bench. He brought it over super hot, and watch this. Boom, the full roll up. So then Oliver got involved, and you'll see us whip this up into a cute little one-of-a-kind snail. We'll be showing this off in the... Well, I guess we're doing it on the annealer reveals and on the Tuesday shows now. So I'll give you guys a viewing of the cane that we have left over, the cane that we chopped down for class twisties and for a couple other things. Joey's getting a taste of the lollipop right there. But yeah, we'll show this off to you guys live for sure on our show as well, and you'll see the finished snail. Turned out super cool, totally unique. We'll probably make that for sale on Tuesday. But there's the neckline on it. Oliver's going to bring over the Maurice. If you guys haven't seen us make a snail yet, this is a product that we designed, if not last year, early last year. It was the end of 2021, but I think it was 2022. And these are just a huge hot seller, and we love them so much. They're such a blast to make, the supernatural twist of it. This is where we're going to punty it up. They're really difficult to make, honestly, because the angle of this punty is really strange. So you got to kind of think like 3 or 4 steps ahead from where you're at right now to know where to put that Maurice, that punty mark. So there's where we're going to break it off. Here that comes. Nice connection. That gets popped off the pipe. Boom. That's flipped around. So now we're going to go into, he's going to be heating it up for a second. We got to put the body on it. I think that's what Joey's got in his hand right here. This is the best part of the whole thing. You got to put it on super hot so it looks natural. We call it the gullet when it folds over and it's got like a little bit of baggage in the slime area up front. Super cool. But here that goes. Pull it forward, fold it over. It's just some pretty cool tech. I've never seen any other products made with that intentional fold back like that. I think it's super cool. So we flatten up the bottom like that. It sits nice and flat. And I'll take a quick heat on it. We're going to grab the tweezers. And there you go. Boom. Boom. 2 little pulls for his tendrils. And maybe if we get a side shot of it in a second, you guys will see the fold I was talking about that kind of makes him get some character. It's a little hard when the glass is hot, but you kind of see it with the light reflecting there. We weren't set up to make snails at all, so we didn't have the hot torch out and we didn't have the stamp out. So in a second, you're going to see a pretty cool move of collaboration where we stamp the bottom of it. But there is the final piece right there. You saw his gullet, and there is the final cane too. Take a look at that. And each one's a little different because of the way it twisted out, the way we had the color lined up, but we're happy with that. It was pretty cool. So that's a little longer of an experimental show for you guys. I hope that was pretty interesting. We don't do that too often on the live shows because it's a lengthier process, but please subscribe to the channel. You guys send the love around, share the feed, tell your friends and family. Big shouts out to our VIP supporters. As always, these are the guys that fund us to do these kind of things. Experimental shows Sundays at 9 a.m. And we're looking forward to seeing you guys this Tuesday, 6 to 8, releasing our brand new mushrooms. Talk to you guys.